Hello everyone, it's Dr. Adib again with another video on medical and social subjects in the US and debunking more myth for you. Today I'm going to talk about drinking water. How much drinking of water is healthy and how much is it recommended? I believe you all know the answer to this question if you have heard of the famous expression, not one size shoe fits all. Yes, that's true. So, the water needs, the fluid needs of a woman that is 4'11" tall and lives indoor all the time and has a relative inactive sedentary life is nowhere near to the needs of a man who is 6'4" and works most of his time outdoors with heavy physical activity. And that's not hard to figure out. But we all hear and we have heard and almost been brainwashed for a long time that we need 1 gallon a day of water to drink, and that's healthy. And that's what keeps our bodies functioning and nice and our skin clear and detoxifies us. And this and that even keeps our mind more clear and all sort of claims about drinking that much. So where do you think this came from? About 70s, decades, 1970s, we started to hear that tap water is not good, it's not clean water, and we were told it's a good idea to buy bottled water. And soon after that thought was quite settled, the next thing over for this advertisement get-go was that, hey, you need 1 gallon of water per day to drink. Everyone needs that in order to stay healthy and not be dehydrated, this and that and that. And that, unfortunately, has caused a lot of problems that we are not very much well aware of it. And I'm going to give you some of the problems that this has brought up. Number one, all sort of problems with diagnosis of UTIs and finding out what's really going on, because literally peeing every 1 to 2 hours is not normal, and unless someone has a UTI. And when I ask this question from many of my patients, they say, I don't know, I drink a lot and I go to the bathroom all the time, which is not supposed to be what that is. With over drinking, we actually put a lot of work on our kidneys to get rid of all that extra water, and I'll tell you in a second why. The second problem that over drinking brings for us is overactive bladder. All sort of problems with frequency of urination and overactive bladder that happens in older age actually intensifies with drinking more than what we need. Also, in older ages, when prostate starts to enlarge in men, every time of peeing would be a problem, and people will really start to feel that problem, even though the healthy amount of voiding in a normal person is only about once every 3 to 4 hours. Another problem, which may surprise you, is interference with weight loss problems. Yes, over drinking, what it causes for the stomach is to stretch. And one of the main mechanisms of feeling full, and what we call it satiety feeling, is activation of those stretch receptors in the wall of the stomach. So if we unnecessarily stretch our stomachs all the time, the stomach becomes wider and wider and wider. So when we eat certain amount of food, the stretch mechanism won't work till we actually bring up the volume to what we used our bodies to. So drinking a lot of water and many weight reducing programs will cause overeating eventually. And as a matter of fact, a very few percentage of people will feel full if they drink before or after having a meal. So this is something that you can test on yourself, but in most people it's not a good idea. The other problem is the problem that it brings for our environment. A lot of plastic bottles needs to be recycled, and some of them aren't recycled, and even if we try to recycle them, hey, it's plastic. It's not something that can go back to the nature that easily. So it's not environmentally healthy, but more scary than that is when these bottled waters are transferred, like let's say in a truck or when they're stored. A lot of times the temperature goes up, and that's the worst combination: water in a plastic bottle that gets warmed up. That can be cancerogen, that can lead to or be part of the cancer process as a promoter to cancers versus the initiators of the cancer. And the other problem that it will bring up in some types of plastics is that it can cause material in the water that is close to female hormones. So that's also not good for our hormonal balance. It's a very good idea to check with your city, see if the city water is healthy to drink. You can also use water filters, or if you, for whatever reason, want to still buy bottled water, I strongly recommend that you buy glass bottle of water, not plastic ones. Now, there are only certain conditions that mandates a person to drink more than other people, and I'm going to mention these conditions for you real quick. Before mentioning those conditions, I want to give you a fact. This medical fact is that our body has a wonderful mechanism to fight dehydration. There are many receptors in our body that can tell what's the concentration of the blood and how much water we need. And as soon as dehydration is at the verge to happen, the thirst mechanism in our bodies is activated. In other words, listening to our bodies and drinking only when we are thirsty is a perfect idea to drink as much as our body needs. There are wonderful mechanisms at the kidney level that preserves water for the body. If we overdrink, our urine becomes diluted. If we underdrink, our urine becomes over concentrated to preserve the water for our body. So these mechanisms are so good and so accurate. Had they not been like this, human species has been extincted a long time ago. because otherwise people might die of dehydration without knowing about it. And that's not going to happen in real life unless there are very rare conditions going on in our body. So the conditions that we need to drink more even though we're not thirsty are as follows. Number one, if you have kidney stones, personal or family history of kidney stones, or if you're prone to get kidney stones for whatever reason. One reason might be some congenital problems in your urinary collection tube, like doubling or some anatomical variations that kind of partially blocked your urine tubes. So in these conditions, we need to drink more, even though we don't feel thirsty. The other condition is when our body is losing lots of water as a disease, like diarrhea. If you have diarrhea, you definitely need to drink, but not water. You want to drink Gatorade, because what we need to replace is something that is closer to our plasma, closer to the liquid part of our blood, which is not pure water. It's water with some salt and with some electrolytes. The other condition or disease I want to say is when there are open wounds for a large surface area of the body, or as a result of an accident, open wounds, for whatever reason. 2/3 of our body weight is water. And as I said, there are very accurate mechanisms to preserve this water. One important mechanism is our skin tegument. So basically, a healthy skin prevents evaporation of this water. And the mechanisms, the fine mechanisms in the kidney and in our carotid arteries are such that the dilution of our blood and the amount of water in our body is very, very, very finely tuned. It's amazing how nicely these mechanisms work. So in any condition that the skin is not there, we definitely need to drink more, because our insensible loss increases. Plus, in these conditions, people are normally admitted to a hospital anyways. They have an IV line and they're getting this fluid by IV fluids and serums. The other condition is fever and any type of infection that our body is fighting with. In that conditions, also the insensible loss increases because of obvious reason of increasing our core body temperature. So we need to drink more, and in a lot of times we feel thirsty more often anyways. And the another condition that I can say, and it's very rare, is a disease called diabetes insipidus. And that disease, which is very rare, like I said, those fine-tuned mechanisms and a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, which preserves water at kidney level, is distorted. That hormone is not producing well. So the urine is very dilated, and the kidney basically has lost the ability to preserve water. In that case, not only there needs to be medical treatment for replacing whatever hormone that is not produced in body, we need to drink more, especially at the initial phases of disease, because some time is needed for the medical treatment to kick in. So again, like I said, this is a $80 billion industry, and they want to tell us that we need to buy bottled water As I said, it's a very good idea to drink only when you're thirsty. Check with your city about cleanliness of the water in your city and if it's drinkable or no. And get water filters and use glass bottled water instead of plastic ones. Okay, folks, this concludes my video on drinking water. Till next time, take care of yourselves and don't believe anything only because you heard it all the time.